Hello and welcome to your Astro Tarot forecast for the week of July 27th through August 2nd. I'm Michelle Shea Walker, and this is your glass half full perspective on this week. And if you are a Substack paid subscriber, first, stick around until the end to see if you won the personalized reading drawing. Second, know that paid subscribers should have a couple extra goodies coming to you this week. I'm going to try and get you a Jupiter and Leo Astro Deep Dive audio to you before Jupiter Kazemi happens this week on Wednesday. So it should be out there, but I'm just saying I'm trying. I'm shooting for that because I want you to be able to use the Jupiter Kazemi energy to your best advantage. And then also for paid subscribers, I have another manifestation role model post that I've been plugging away upon that I'm hoping will be out later on this week. So if you're not a paid subscriber, it's a good week to become one. And we are going to dive in to the end of July, beginning of August 2026. And I feel like it's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be one of those weeks that we're taking the good with the bad and we're rolling with the punches, is what I'm getting from the energy, the cards, and the astrology. But we do have some really cool things happening. And then we also have some very interesting cards. And I'm already getting the urge to yawn. Which, if you've been around for a while, knows that there's a sign, that's an energy healer sign that someone listening to this is going through some big transformations. So big energy potentially could be shifting this week. And I get the feeling that, again, it's a roll with the punches type of energy. Rest when you need to rest, work when you need to work, give yourself a break when you need to give yourself a break, and just keep swimming. So with that in mind, let's dive in. Monday, July 27th, we have lots of stuff happening involving the sun. So before I even dive into what the sun's lining up with or not lining up with, the sun is about our ego, our sense of self. So on Monday, we're doing a lot of shifting and evaluating and sort of transforming our perspective on ourselves and our confidence within ourselves. The two of the alignments are favorable. We have the sun trine Neptune, which means that those two planets are in a similar element. So water, earth, air. In this case, it is fire. And Neptune is the planet of our subconscious, of our dreams, of that intuitive water flow that's just beneath the surface that we have to get really quiet to hear. So your sense of identity is being informed by your unconscious beliefs and your subconscious desires on Monday. So it could be a good day to evaluate either literally your dreams that you've had, because this is happening at 2:36 a.m., so it could be affecting what's happening during your sleep, or the actual dreams that you have for your life. It could also be about letting go of more unconscious beliefs about your dreams so that you can free your energy up to move forward. The other favorable alignment happens later on in the afternoon that day at 4:36 p.m. The sun is sextile Uranus. So sextile, again, the visual I always get for that is these two planets are coming together, having a cup of tea, and conspiring amongst themselves to see what they can do to push our life in the direction it needs to go. And again, the sun is about our sense of identity, our sense of self. Uranus is about big change. So these two planets are trying to help us make some big change in the way that we see ourselves. I feel like we're really having to upgrade our perspective and our worth as we move into this next chapter. So Monday is challenging us to do that. And then prior to those two more favorable alignments, in the very wee morning hours at 1:54 a.m., the sun is opposite Pluto. So there is a bit of a struggle between identity and how that identity fits into the collective mission at this time in this generation. So honestly, I would much rather that be the thing that we're feeling like we're in opposition to anything else. That could be my Aquarius rising talking. uh, I don't think that we need to be so concerned with where we fit in if we are fulfilling what our intuition is telling us is our purpose. So listen more to those subconscious dreams, letting go of the beliefs that are holding you back from feeling like you can create big change and feeling like you're worth this next step. And over time, you will find your place in the collective. You'll figure out where your puzzle piece fits in to the bigger picture once you get the ball rolling on your what feels like more personal or smaller dreams for yourself. So again, we focus on the micro so that we can affect the macro. You don't always know how you're going to affect the macro when you start that micro project. So don't worry too much about the macro. Worry about what you feel pulled to do right now and realigning your beliefs and your sense of self with an identity that can help you achieve those goals. And then over time, we'll figure out where you fit into the grander picture. Sometimes we don't even need to know where we fit into the grander picture. Like, think of people who have changed the world that didn't even know their impact because it happened after their death. Like, there are artists, there are musicians, there are so many people throughout history that have made a great impact on their craft, their field. But some of them didn't even get to see it. So hopefully a lot of us get to see our impact, but you don't have to focus on what you're doing and it will find its place. So that's the message I have for you on Monday with the astrology. The card of the day is the Five of Cups. So the Five of Cups, I'm getting another yawn. Oh goodness, that was big and long. Five of Cups is telling us that, and that yawn is telling me, that we have big energy to shift around where we place our focus. Are you focusing on what could go wrong, or are you focusing on what could go right? Are you focusing on what you want to do, or are you focusing on the stuff that you currently have to do that maybe you don't want to do, and you're kind of running away from the bad rather than running towards the good? Ooh, that was a sentence that just dropped in fully formed. So let me say that again. That was important for someone. Are you acting right now from a place of running away from the bad, or are you acting from a place of running towards the good? Because yes, you can do both of those things in the same action, but your intention is everything. So if you feel like you're unhappy with your current position in life and your motivation to move forward is to get you out of a situation that you don't desire, that's a great instigator for the motivation, but your actual motivation should be what you're running towards. Because if you're looking at the lack or the dystopia that you're currently trying to get out of, you're only going to take the energy that you're focused on with you based on the law of attraction. So you want to focus on where you want to be, what you want life to look like, what you want the surroundings around you to be, and move towards that goal out of a place of eager anticipation rather than trying to run from something and just jump ship into another area of your life so that you don't have to deal with what's currently happening or what you currently don't like. You can still not like what's currently happening, but don't use that as your motivation. Use the positive aspects of your future as the motivation to get moving. That is Monday. Tuesday, July 28th, just a tiny dose of astrology. We have the moon moving into Aquarius in the evening hours. So if you are a natal Aquarius moon, you have a free pass from me to feel your feelings a little bit more for the days following that. And for the rest of us, Aquarius, on the heart open side of Aquarius, is very much about love for humanity as a whole. The other side of Aquarius is very intellectual and a little disconnected from the one-on-one emotions of things. So be mindful that you're not Well, I mean, it just depends. It always depends with all of the energies what you currently lean on as your crutch and what is being challenged for you to do the other thing. If you know that you have a tendency to think your feelings rather than feel your feelings, when the moon is in an air sign like Aquarius, you might be extra mindful of that so that you can remind yourself that you have to be in your body sometimes and you have to feel things to move through them. If you're the type of person that doesn't detach from your emotions often enough to kind of examine the situation objectively, this energy could help you do that. So that is the astrology for Tuesday. The card for Tuesday is the Judgment card reversed. And I'm getting a yawn like coming up from the back of my throat. So there's some big energy that wants to shift around Judgment. And because this card is reversed, I'm specifically getting a read on this one that it's our self-judgment that we're tweaking. Again, Monday was a lot about like our identity and realigning with a new version of ourselves and seeing ourselves in a different light. I think we're still grappling with some of that energy on Tuesday, and we're letting go of judgments of our current circumstance. We're letting go of judgments on our past self. And I'm even getting, we're letting go of judgments on our future that we desire. So there's something that I continued to observe in the collective that I haven't quite figured out how to form my like read around it in proper words. Like I've got the feelings behind it. I'm not ready to do like a full-on essay on this topic, but there is a narrative in society that does, especially in today's culture, like to pit an us versus them attitude, whether it be in politics, whether it be class cultures, whether it be race. And again, my mindset is always, are you like moving towards and creating things that you want to see in the world? Or are you fighting against the things that you're resisting? Because whatever you give your attention to, you're going to see more of in your existence. And if you're constantly looking at what other people have that you don't have and sort of almost playing a victim in your mind and giving all of the arguments, which there are plenty of valid arguments out there of why there should be, more shared wealth, there should be universal health care. There's plenty of things that, yes, if you're feeling in lack in those areas, there's nothing that says that those things shouldn't change. But if you're feeling like you are being oppressed, if you're feeling like you are the victim in a situation, whether it be politically, whether it be in your romantic relationship, whether it be in your family relationship, if you are seeing yourself as an oppressed victim, you are automatically chipping away at your own power. And I'm getting a message for Tuesday's Judgment Reverse card that we might be having very valid, fact-based excuses for our circumstances and why we're, oppressed or someone else is in the wrong. And in seeing ourselves as a victim, we are preventing ourselves from rising to the power that we are fully capable of achieving. And then in that mindset of seeing yourself as oppressed or a victim, you do create sort of a otherness to whoever you feel like has it better than you. And if you other people that are doing better in life, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, whether it be, location, like whatever the envy key is, if you feel like they are other than you, then it makes that goal less achievable for your energy. So let's take money as the easiest thing to say this. So there's a lot of conversation online right now about how a lot of people in the world are holding a lot of the wealth. And yes, that is true. I am not denying that fact. But from an energetic standpoint and from just a place of empowering yourself, if you are constantly pushing against and judging and finding wrong in the lives of people who have money and power, there's an unconscious belief that you're creating that money and power automatically make someone evil and that it's wrong. And then by that degree, you are kind of going to continue to self-sabotage yourself from getting that money and power because you don't want to be evil. So I'm not saying that evil doesn't exist in the world. I'm not saying that money and evil can't coexist in the same person. But start to look for the good, especially if it's something that you would hope to one day acquire in your life and use better to better the world. We need more people who have good intentions to stop judging people with lots of money, because I would love for everyone in the world that has good intentions to also have lots of money. So selfishly, I want us all to soften those knee-jerk reactions and those associations of money equals evil or power equals evil. Look for the exceptions to that rule. Look for the money and power and influence of people who are doing really good things, and then use them as your goalpost so that you're not unconsciously blocking the assets that you could acquire to do good in the world. So that's what I'm getting from Tuesdays. So this is some heavy lifting that we're doing on the first couple of days of this week. And I think that's really, par for the course, because we have some big stuff happening on Wednesday. So as we move from these first 2 days of kind of reflecting on our identity, creating some change in the way that we see ourselves, letting go of judgments around people that have the things that we want but somehow find on an unconscious level are, not as desirable for whatever reason. We're moving into Wednesday, July 29th, and we have both the Aquarius full moon and we have a Jupiter cazimi. So if you don't know what a cazimi is, it's when a planet is what's called conjunct, but basically just means a planet lines up directly in the same line as the sun. And what that does is the sun magnifies the energy of that planet, and it also kind of cleanses and clears the energy of that planet. So it's kind of like a nice, just a full-on reset button, but also like a reset button that then cranks up the volume. So we're working with the cazimi first. It's happening at, wait, can I read my own writing? Okay, I believe we have the cazimi first. The cazimi is 7:17 a.m. Central Standard Time. If I'm reading my number on the next one correctly, 9:35 a.m. is when the full moon is happening. So a little earlier in the morning, we have our Jupiter cazimi. That alignment of the planet of luck and expansion is coming in to get cleansed, to get cleared, and to magnify our potential to find luck or expand. Now, again, I'm going to try my best to, before this date, get a special paid subscriber audio out there on Jupiter in Leo, because that was a planet movement that just recently happened. It's a planet movement that's echoing back to about 14 years ago, I believe. I'll get it correct when I do the deep dive. And it's essentially bringing back some stuff that we are expanding upon during that time period and allowing us to expand into whatever Leo lands in our natal chart. So I'll cover all of that rising sign by rising sign in the audio breakdown for paid subscribers. Again, hopefully out at least by Wednesday, if not before. And we're essentially just expanding our sense of self. We're expanding our ability to draw in the abundance that we want, the power that we want, the influence that we want, all of those things that we mentioned on Tuesday, and in a way that feels good to us. Again, find those role models of people that are doing it right and disproving the idea that money always equals corruption or power always equals corruption. Find the exceptions to the rule, and I guarantee they're out there. I can think of a few, but they're my own personal ones. So find the ones that resonate for you. And then the Aquarius full moon, which, by the way, is our last full moon until we hit eclipse season next month. So let's take advantage of these clean and clear manifestations coming in, is calling back to about 6 months ago. I think it's February 17th that we had the Aquarius new moon. Now, if I remember correctly, actually, let me just check my notes because it's within this calendar year, so I do have that in front of me. I believe it was also a eclipse. Yeah, so the Aquarius new moon in February was an eclipse. So if we follow the recommendation I usually give, we don't do heavy lifting manifestation work underneath an eclipse, because you can call in something funky. That was funky was what I was going for. And I have done it before. I've accidentally manifested on a new moon, or on an eclipse happening on a new moon, and got kind of what I wanted, but like just off, just like a degree off. And like, that's a weird manifestation to come into your life, because if you get what you were asking for, but it's just like slightly like 2 degrees off, you feel weird rejecting it, but it also doesn't feel right. So you may not have done active manifestation work in February around the 17th. However, I find that if you're setting goals and just making general wishes within your life that are not necessarily connected to that moon, that could still have influenced some energy coming in like a soft enough way that it doesn't get as funky with the eclipse energy. So point being, you may or may not be able to look back to February 17th at the start of this year and see some stuff that has come to fruition in the past 6 months. If nothing has come to fruition in the past 6 months that you were thinking about then, just consider it a blessing in disguise that you didn't get some sort of funky manifestation. But again, if you were just softly and very easily carrying around some desires that maybe made their way into the ether, check in, have some gratitude for anything that did come through, and especially if it came through in a way that you wanted and not like 2 degrees off. The other thing about full moons is it's a good time for releasing. So yes, they are where we harvest the manifestation seeds that we planted the new moon 6 months prior, but they're also really good for just like letting the tides go out, which is the opposite of what the tides would actually do on a full moon. But like we're letting things go. Think of it as like the full moon brings the tide in, and you can dump whatever you don't need into that water and know that it's going to be taken away. So if there's something that you need to release, I'm getting, especially if it's something that's holding you back from fulfilling your potential right now, some addictive patterns or habits that you have, this is a good day to release it. You can do it just setting the intention. You can do some sort of ritual if that works for you. And the card of the day is the strength card. So you do have the strength to realign yourself to this expansive Jupiter Cazimi, and also to release the things that aren't serving how you're expanding and the direction you're expanding to. That is Wednesday. Thursday, quieter on the astrology, which is probably kind of nice because the card of the day is the Ten of Swords. And the Ten of Swords is kind of the burnout card. It's the card that feels as if you've kind of hit rock bottom. In this particular deck, which is called the Modern Witch Tarot, it's the image of a person that's laying on their side with a bunch of swords sticking out of them, and they're scrolling their phone. So I do associate this card with a bit of like the doom scrolling feeling that we get. And even if you're not doom scrolling, like if you're just scrolling unconsciously and you're online too much and you just get sucked into the energy, it just feels like you're carrying the weight of the world around with you. You're carrying all the energy that you're interacting with online at all times. Please keep that in mind anytime you open up social media. It's the same thing as if you went into a public place and picked up energy there. You're just doing it through your eyeballs. So be mindful if you're picking up on other people's energy and carrying around stuff that's not yours when we get to Thursday. But also, just be able to give yourself a break if you need to, because there's a lot of heavy lifting happening Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week. So if you need to give yourself a break on Thursday, and maybe I don't like recommending this, but if your way of giving yourself a break in this particular case is to zone out on a social media scroll or a Netflix binge or something like that, just be mindful of how you're feeling while you're doing these things, because that's going to be your indicator of if it's restoring you or if it's depleting you. But whatever it is that you need to do to reset, and it might be staying off your phone. If you're feeling stressed out when you pick up your phone, that's a sign. That's what we want to do on Thursday. We want to give ourselves a time to just kind of realign to all the changes that we made at the beginning of the week and recognize that changes can be kind of exhausting. So if you need to sleep extra that day or just give yourself some extra time somewhere, do so, is what I'm getting, because there might be a little bit of a feeling of exhaustion that's coming in. On Friday, we have the moon moving into Pisces. So if you are a fellow natal Pisces moon, we always feel our feelings, but you have free license to feel your feelings for the next couple of days. Let yourself wallow in the feels even more than you normally would. If you're not a natal Pisces moon love to feel things, especially to feel things influenced by art and music and creative sources. So it's the put on a sappy movie and cry. It's put on a happy song and dance. It's go have a spiritual experience standing in front of a piece of art in an actual physical gallery. It's letting yourself full body and full spectrum of emotions experience the beauty in the world around you and the pain in the world around you. Water signs don't shy away from either. There's no good or bad emotions here. So letting yourself really feel your feels to the point that you're almost letting the art that you surround yourself deepen your emotions is a really Pisces moon energy. That being said, if you do have a tendency, like a lot of Pisces moons do, to get caught up in flights of fancy or being a little more in your imagination or the potential of things in your mind, be mindful of that. This tends to happen the most with romantic relationships. So like if you are someone that you find yourself in some sort of like beginning stages of a romantic thing and you're letting yourself go full Pisces moon energy and watch all the sappy romance stuff, or maybe you're like binging romance tarot card readings on YouTube, and you're letting yourself get caught up in a storyline that hasn't happened yet for you, be very mindful of that. It's taken me 42 years to get to that lesson, but it's a lesson well learned. Let yourself feel the feels, but if it's somehow distorting your perspective on someone else's free will and actions in a situation, you might want to bring yourself back to reality every once in a while. The card of the day for Friday is the Sun card reversed. So I'm getting this as a little callback to our Monday energy with all the Sun alignments, especially because it's reversed, because we're still trying to figure out that identity piece. We're still, aren't we always going to be like, as you grow and change in the world, you're constantly learning to shift your identity in some way, shape, or form. But there is some big energy that's aligning this week. And I think that on Friday, we're having another check-in. It's like we're bookending the week with checking in with our identity and how we feel about our identity, what we want to shift and change, what beliefs are holding us back, like all of that stuff. Check in. And honestly, I'm getting the hit that it could be that you check in on Friday and you're like, wow, look at all the stuff that I shifted this week. Like, you might even do some journaling this week. And like on Monday, you might be journaling something like, oh, I don't feel good enough, like imposter syndrome stuff. Like, I don't feel good enough. I'm not qualified enough for this, like whatever. And you might find that after doing all the work with the astrology throughout the week, by Friday, you actually still have some stuff you're working on, but you're not working on near as much. And you've kind of settled into a place of contentment in a lot of areas of self. That's what I'm getting for Friday. Saturday, we move into August. We have Venus square Lilith on Saturday. So, big yawn for that one. Okay. Venus and Lilith are the ones that I always end up talking about are dog and our wolf, or our, witch and our divine feminine and our dark feminine. And again, don't get too hung up on feminine and masculine. We all have the full spectrum within us. So whatever qualities you have that lean more feminine, we're working with that. But there are ultimately going to be parts of that side of yourself that you see as either palatable and quote unquote good, or shameful or darker or shadowy or quote unquote bad. And just like I mentioned with an energy earlier, there's no good or bad. But having these two in a square, it's gonna feel like these two sides of yourself can't quite come together. And that's kind of okay. I'm actually getting a very random hit that you might want to lean on your masculine energy on Saturday and do something with that. And I mean, that just means whatever it is that you devise are your masculine and feminine qualities. Like if you were going to put, and again, if you're uncomfortable with those terms, solar and lunar, material and psychic, like find those two contrasts within you. And anything that's leaning more towards the lunar, the spiritual, and the feminine, feel free to work with it if it feels good that day. But if you feel like those energies are kind of fighting within you, go to the other end of the spectrum and do something with that energy. So like a good example of this is if you're someone that does a lot of like meditating or creating or things that kind of exist in the ether and in your head, Saturday may not feel like the best day to be able to hit that from all sides. So instead, you might go out and run some errands or do some chores or do things that are more existing in the physical material world. And again, use your own judgment, because I'm getting a hit for some of us. The Venus square Lilith is not going to stop us from doing whatever that we're doing with whatever aspect of energy we're working with. But if you do feel like you're hitting a bit of a wall, because there's sort of like a self-judgment going on within like what's appropriate to be in society and what's not appropriate to be in society with your feminine energy, just go the other direction. Get some stuff done with the other end of the spectrum. The card of the day is kind of interesting given this conversation of this union of divine feminine and divine masculine that we all have within us, because it's the Four of Wands. And the Four of Wands, yes, does mean structure and stability. It's like building the four pillars that you're going to eventually build the walls of a building around. But it also can be a card of like marriage or celebration of a union. So this feels as if maybe, I think for a lot of us listening, we've been living a bit more in the feminine energy or the lunar or the spiritual energy of our existence. And the fact that there's a little bit of a snag in that area with Lilith and Venus square on Saturday is inviting us back into the other half of our existence that we might have neglected. So I think that this Four of Wands is indicating that like we actually needed this little shift or this little break from the more feminine aspects of our existence, the caretaker, the psychic, the creative. And we needed to kind of go into the more big picture, financial organization, getting things done in the real world energy. And we're being invited to do that on Saturday, even if it's just from sheer frustration that Lilith and Venus are not getting along. As we move into Sunday, we have the North Node sextile Chiron. So North Node is about like our direction north, the place our compass is pointing us. And then Chiron is our wounded healer. So these two are, again, in a sextile, which is that thing that I say, that they're coming together and having a cup of tea and talking about how we can shake things up and move things forward. And that tells me that our direction north is in agreement with the wounds that we've healed, which actually could be a bit of the healing of whatever we were encountering the day before, and accepting that parts of ourselves that maybe society has deemed less appropriate are still worthy of love and acceptance of being brought into the light. The other astrology that's happening on Sunday is the moon is moving into Aries. So if you are a natal Aries moon, free license to feel your feels a little bit more. Aries moon for all of us does tend to have a little bit of a quicker turnaround on the fuse. So just be mindful if you're going to 0 to 60 with your emotions somewhere, you might want to damper it down or at least restrict yourself from having the reaction as quickly as your emotions shift. Like maybe give yourself a break to count to 10 and see if you want to say that thing. The card of the day is really favorable though. So the 10 of Cups is what's coming forward here. And I'm getting this little like duo energy with Saturday and Sunday. And it's not just because they're starting off a new month, so they feel kind of grouped together. These two cards feel like they might kind of go together. So you might have like a weekend theme that's happening that involves celebrating your community. And that could be celebrating the community and the union you found within yourself. It could be celebrating some sort of structured community outside of you, be it your family, be it your friends, be it your neighborhood. And I'm getting just a feeling of like, what's the term? Civic pride is the term that's coming forward. Like I'm getting just this feeling of like being really proud of where you live and the people you surround yourself with. And almost like you want to like throw a little parade for whatever it is. Like it's that feeling of like and I don't know that Chicago specifically does this as far as like this specific thing, but it's like I'm getting images around like cartoons from childhood where like specifically, and I don't know if this is something that happens in this series, getting images from the cartoon Doug. So for my fellow 90s Nickelodeon kids, and there's a mayor in that show. And so there's this image of like the mayor announcing a day dedicated to celebrating the city or the town. Like it's that type of stuff that I feel like really only happens in like fictional, quaint fictional occurrences. But it's this feeling of like we're proud of where we are, and that could be geographically where you find yourself. It could be within your like friendship community and the people you surround yourself with within your job, or it could be like your smaller inner circle of your immediate family, the people you live with, or your friends that you feel closest to. But there's a sense of like throw a little internal or energetic parade for your town, so to speak, whatever that is for you. And there's also a little bit of a hit for maybe someone listening that if you don't feel like you want to throw a parade for where you're at, that might be a sign that you want to change locations. That's not going to be for everyone. Like maybe 1 or 2 people listening, that was a message specifically for you, and you've already been feeling that if that's the case. So if you are living somewhere that you don't feel like you want to participate in that civic pride, that throw a parade, think about if you've ever experienced that somewhere, if you ever had that connection. I know that's how I feel about Chicago. It felt like home the second that I moved here, and I didn't realize how much like a home it really was until I left and came back. So maybe you're lucky enough to have experienced a place like that you can return to, or you're being pulled towards something now that is new and that is going to align. But if where you're at doesn't feel right, that's a sign. That is the weekly read. So if you're new around here, this is the point that I like to do a little extra thing for my paid subscribers and also for people that tip the reader. I don't promote the tip the reader quite as often anymore because I feel like the paid subscriber gig is a much better gig. You get more posts. You get the regular pull of the card. But this week I do have someone that tipped the reader, and I'm very thankful for that. So I appreciate that. And that name will be added to the tin as well. But I have a physical tin of written names that I'm going to do a random draw for. And before I do that, I want to thank the people that have supported this endeavor by becoming a paid subscriber or by tipping the reader. So thank you, Kathleen, Katie, Caitlin, Amanda, Holly, Jane, Tracy, Sonia, and Paula. And with that, we're going to remove Tracy's name because Tracy won last week's reading, and we have a rule that you can't win 2 weeks in a row. And I'm going to shake up the tin, And whoever I pull from this 10, that name is going to get a personal reading drawing. So if you are not one of the names in this 10, or you're not the name that I'm about to pull out of the 10, that doesn't mean you can't stick around for this reading. Because if you feel called to stick around, that's your intuition telling you that there might be something that I say for this other person that it's going to fit into a little place in your heart. And you're going to need that too. So you're going to use your intuition to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. With that in mind, the name that I've pulled is Caitlin. So Caitlin, this is your personal reading drawing. And anyone else who wants to join in to this portion of the reading. I'm going to pull from the same deck that we used. And I'm working with a tighter workspace because I wanted to get cozy for this reading. So hopefully I'm not going to have things all over the place as I shuffle these cards. And Caitlin, we're going to see what a past, present, future reading looks like for you in the current energy. We got a past card flipping right over. We got two separate pairs that flipped out. So I'm going to take one of them that came out first as the present. And then, oh, no, this is not two. Okay, so Caitlin, you're getting like a 7-card reading because you had 4 cards want to come out together for the future and 2 cards want to come out together for the present. So what a deal for that $5 a month, huh? Okay, so your recent past, 6 of Pentacles. This is the one that wanted to flip out immediately. It was ready to come out. It was very clear. It didn't have to have any buddies come with it. Your recent past has been a lot about learning the lesson of equal give and take, of putting up boundaries when you need to, of allowing yourself to carve out the you time that you need, asking for help when you need it, and recognizing that whatever you're giving energetically to the world, you should also be getting back. And this is particularly true within certain relationships. So like you might have had certain connections that you're like, I'm giving a lot to this and I'm not seeing a lot of return. And I think you've done a really good job of putting up boundaries either for others or just for yourself to just not give as much to the connections and the situations that you're not seeing as much return from. So that's no small feat. So bravo, applause, congratulations on that. And then as we move into the present, the 2 cards that wanted to fall out there are the Knight of Swords in the upright position and the Queen of Wands in the reverse position. So I'm getting a very interesting, first of all, yawn. So big energy shifting here. And we're shifting. Okay, I'm getting a lot of energy rushing in right now. I just got really kind of like heady and cloudy in my head. So like the third eye is definitely trying to open for you. And I'm getting that there's a push-pull happening in your life right now that is between when to take action and when to wait for inspiration from your intuition. So let me take a sip of water to kind of clear some of this haziness real quick. And this is coming through with a lot of what I'll talk about a lot with Abraham Hicks, of you sit in meditation, wait for alignment, wait for inspiration, and then act. Now, we can't do this for every little thing in our life, obviously. Like, we don't have enough time in the day to wake up, sit in meditation, and wait for the impulse to go check those chores off or buy those groceries. Some days, maybe, usually not all the time. So yes, there are still things in your life that you're going to have to take action on that don't feel quite as inspired. But I'm getting that there are some things in your life that you're getting a little ahead of yourself with the action. That you're feeling this impulse to dive in, which is the Knight of Swords energy. And then the Queen of Wands reverse is like, hey, wait, we've got some spiritual messages that want to come through on this to fully align ourselves with the proper course of action and the proper direction. So I think you're just making things a little harder on yourself by acting like almost out of habit. So this could be something that's connected to kind of more like day-to-day chores. But the metaphor that I'm getting relates to it, so we'll use that anyway. It feels like you always do things on a certain day or in a certain order to like make sure throughout the week you get things done. or like you make a to-do list and like it gets done on like Wednesday is this thing and Friday is this thing. And there's just a little whisper of energy coming through right now that's saying that your intuition might be telling you to switch that up a little bit. And it's this, again, I'm getting an Abraham Hicks story coming through. So like it's an energy as if, which is what the story that I'm getting, I'm just going to pull it straight from Abraham Hicks, but like it's as if you knew that you needed to book a flight somewhere and you had it on your agenda and you had it on your agenda and you had it on your agenda. And if you'd force yourself to do it on a day that didn't feel in alignment, that it really did feel like you were forcing yourself to squeeze it in, you might have got a higher price than if you like woke up one day really in the mood to book a trip and then something occurred. So this is an actual story that Esther Hicks shares when she's giving her lectures, that she had this experience where she was avoiding it. And then the day that she booked it, there were flights that hadn't been available before. There were prices that hadn't been available before, and everything just kind of like went really smoothly. So I feel like there's some areas of your life currently that your Taurus intuition is trying to tell you to either wait or go ahead and do early. And so there's some to-do lists, some tasks, some things that you want to get done. Maybe they're everyday things, maybe they're bigger projects. And you want to really listen to that voice within you that's like yes and no. And if you really like just can't bring yourself to do something, forcing yourself to do it might be getting yourself ahead of the universe's plans for you. So I know this isn't, you've heard this recommendation before. I'm going to recommend that this week especially, you try to wake up and give yourself just a little time in stillness. Even if it's a true on meditation and you sit somewhere and you do like a whole routine, awesome. But even if it's that you set your alarm like 5 minutes earlier and you get to like lay in bed and like be like, okay, what do I feel inspired to do today? And let yourself ask that question and wait for inspiration. And again, it might not be a thing that happens every day like magic. You may just go ahead with the to-do list some days. But listen for the little whispers that are like, ooh, I really want to go this direction. Or I really don't feel like doing that task today. And if you can put off the task for another day in the week and wait for that more aligned inspiration to happen, I think you're going to make things overall easier on yourself. That was a very long tangent for these cards, but that's what I'm getting for the present. The future, with our 4 cards that we're going to try and not go too far off book, talking about all 4 of them, we have the 9 of Cups, which is wishes fulfilled. We have the 2 of Swords reversed, which is feeling like you're caught between a rock and a hard place and then suddenly realize that there's another option. So that's great. We have the 3 of Wands reversed, which is a manifestation energy that just needs a little tweaking to get a little clarified about what you're trying to draw into your life. And then we have the Queen of Swords, who is really good with boundaries. So we're going to kind of call back to that message that I had before about being able to go with setting boundaries with your energy. So as we move into the future, we're going to do a little broad stroke here that setting the boundaries has allowed you to really call in some cool alignments. I'm getting that you're probably going to find in the near future that some connections that you've kind of set up boundaries that made them less in your life are replaced by something even better. There is a feeling of, again, with the 2 of Swords, there's a feeling that like maybe right now in the current present, you feel caught between 2 choices or 2 directions. And you're going to recognize in the near future, as you start this practice of checking in with your intuition, that there's actually another third option that you didn't even realize was there that's going to make things easier. And then with the 3 of Wands, the one thing we are trying to iron out with this energy in the near future is really getting clear on what you're trying to call in, what you're trying to manifest. Because it feels like the 9 of Cups, your wishes are coming true pretty quickly. You're getting the types of relationships that you were wishing for when you were setting all those boundaries. You're aligning yourself with the actions that feel good to you in the day-to-day. And now it's time to kind of go a little bit bigger. Like, how much farther in the future do you want to send your perspective to use this energy to your advantage? Maybe this is part of the Jupiter Cazimi expansion that's happening, or maybe it's the Jupiter and Leo portion. But there's definitely you can fill out your order form to the universe a little more clearly in the near future. And I think it's because of this practice I'm offering you this week, which is give yourself a little bit of time in stillness each day before you start doing whatever it is that you automatically have on your to-do list, and see if anything feels like it needs to be moved around. See if you need to follow your impulses a little bit more. And I think that's going to lead you to some really cool things, and it's going to open you up to another level of manifesting that you're not even used to. And so that's why it's going to be like a broader perspective on your manifestations, because you're not used to thinking that big, but you're going to get more used to this energy expanding, and it's going to invite you to go bigger with your visions. I hope that reading served you, Caitlin, as well as anyone else who chose to listen. And if you made it this far in the reading, thank you for being here. And I hope you have a lovely into July, beginning of August 2026.